So we're going back now to we're resuming our learning in the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991, which talks about this week's Torah portion, Jacob, Yaakov. And it's connected to the second Rebbe of Chabad. There were 7 Rebbes of Chabad altogether. The first one wrote the book, the Tanya. His son became the second Rebbe of Chabad. And the Rebbe is pointing out over here that he was born and passed away on the same date. So the Rebbe said, what is the importance of that? Well, first of all, Moses also did the same thing. He was born and he passed away on the same date. Okay, good. So what does that mean? What's the importance of it? It says the Rebbe, the purpose of the Jewish people is to fix up the world. Time is part of the world. There are certain people that they have this ability to fix up and even time. It says by Abraham that his days were filled. Time is precious. 2 of those people that fixed up every single instant of their lives, and they made I want to call it completed the full cycle of time from the day they were born to the day they passed away. They filled every day with holiness. One was Moses, and another one was the second Lubavitcher Rebbe. He passed away on the 9th day of Kislev, which that is tomorrow, tonight, actually. So this is especially connected to Yaakov. Remember we said about Yaakov, that Yaakov's thing was beginning the idea of fixing up the world. Yaakov went into Haran. And Yaakov left a very nice place, which is called Beersheba. Says the Rebbe, that's also the same thing with our soul. The soul leaves heaven, wonderful place, and it comes down into this physical world, terrible place. And the reason it comes down here is to fix up the world. And that's the idea of fixing up time, fixing up place, fixing up soul. Says the Rebbe, that's the whole idea, is to reveal the creator in the creation. The creator, God, didn't just create the world 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000 years ago, whatever. He's creating it right now. He just began the process, according to Judaism, 5,784, a couple months, years ago. But it's happening every moment, and we don't feel it, we don't reveal it. The job of the Jewish people is that it should be felt and should be revealed. And when that happens, when the creator is revealed in the creation, what happens? The creation becomes tremendously important. We see that God himself is creating everything from nothing, brand new every instant. Everything is tremendously and vitally important to the creator. That's what the Jewish people are chosen for. So it says a very interesting thing, that's what Yaakov began. So it says a very interesting thing about Yaakov. He said that the first thing he did was, when he was going on his journey, was that he went to sleep. So the Rebbe said, what type of a preparation is that? Went to sleep. That's what he did. Went to sleep. What type of, so okay, make us say, listen, he wanted to get a good sleep because he was, tired. He didn't sleep for 14 years. He didn't sleep. That's what it says. Didn't sleep for 14 years. When he's going to go to the house of Lavan, he doesn't sleep for 20 years. So how much of a sleep can you get to rest up for a thing like that, right? After not sleeping for 14 years, so he had to get a good 8 hours in there, a good 10 hours. That'll make up for the 14 years he didn't sleep, right? Multiply 14 years by how many hours is that? 365 times 24. I don't know. You want to make a calculation? Let's make a calculation. He didn't sleep for 14 years. Here we go. 1 second. If he can stay up for so long, he can't stay up for a couple more hours. He has to go to sleep. First thing he does on the way is going to sleep. So anyway, thousands of hours, probably a couple 100,000 hours. Why not make the calculation? Here, let's do it. 1 second. I'll take a minute, 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. Here we go. We got 365 times 24 times 14 equals Yeah, 24. Okay, here I got 122,640. So he stayed awake for 122,640 hours. That's a pretty long time, right? 1,200 and that's a that's a long time. Now, how long does he have to sleep in order to make up for that time? And if he can stay up for so long, so what's the first thing he does is he's going to go to sleep. That's the first thing. First thing he says. That's why. Why is it? It says Vayivga b'makom v'yolan sham that he went to this, came to this place, and we said this place is where the holy temple is going to be. V'yolan sham, and he went to sleep there. Ki bo Hashemesh, because the sun sank. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, and he took from the stones of the place. Vayosem rosh hasav, and he put them around his head. Vayishka b'makom, and he lay down in that place. Kasher nishmata, when the soul of a Jew, Yoredes, comes down below into this world. Litlabish baguf, to be put into a body. Right, the baby is born. Gashmi ba'olam hazeh, in this world. Olam, in this world. World is from the word in Hebrew for world is the same word as from concealment. Miyad, immediately, yeshlo at ha ki bo Hashemesh, the sun sinks. Helam shalagiloi is concealment of the light of Shemesh umagin Hashem Elokeim. That it says that God is a sun and a shield. God is concealed. The sun sinks. God is, in this case, the sun is a metaphor for God. Kishatotzam, he says, as a result of this, Vayishka b'makom, as he laid down in this place. What does it mean? That a person lays down, that his head, the head of a person, the highest quality of a person, it becomes equal to his feet. Like we're going to learn later on. Because of this concealment of God and the world, the concealment of God, how the world conceals over God, the physical world, and the mundane world, mamash, shehu, tachton shein tachton matan mimeno. This is the lowest. There can't be anything lower than it. Binyan hester oro b'choshech kaflu b'chupel. Darkness and double darkness. Like taking a person and hypnotizing him so that he believes that he's a tree. This is a tree or a dog or something like that. Right? You can't talk to him. You can't. What are you going to do to him? But you got to get him out of this hypnotism. That's the same thing. The soul, before it comes into the world, is aware of God. It knows it's a creator. It's created. It's just a bundle of appreciation and love and awe of the creator. That's what it feels. And all of a sudden, it comes out into this world, and it doesn't feel anything. Right? It's like taking a person and hypnotizing him that he believes that he's a rock or something. It doesn't feel anything. That's the world. That's what God did. He took the soul and put it into this world. Ubafrad, and especially b'choshech layla galus, the darkness of this exile, kasher, when also we don't see any signs of God at all. And especially we're now on the heels of the Moshiach. That we are found in a matzav, in a situation of shina, that we are asleep, v'shchiva, and we are laying down, that the powers of the soul are concealed. We don't see God, we don't feel God, we don't care about God. Therefore, the head and the feet are equal. In some ways, the feet are even higher. Now, the Rebbe once talked about politicians. He said politicians is the opposite of a normal person. A normal person usually sits on a chair. The chair is below him. So by the politicians, their seat is above them, is on their head. All they think about is just holding on to their chair, holding on to their position. That's all they're considering. What about truth? What about all the promises that they made? What about honesty? What about courage? What about love? What about benefiting the people? Maybe people won't vote for me. All of a sudden, the chair becomes the main thing. Make all sorts of concessions, all sorts of deals, all sorts of. This world, this world is filled with what's called shells and sitra achra on the other side. Neged Hashem, they are against God. And therefore, there has to be therefore, Jacob had to take from the stones of the place, Sheyira, because he was afraid of the wild animals. Says he took the stones and he put them in Rosh Hashanah. One opinion is he put them under his head, which that sort of doesn't make any sense because who uses a rock for a pillow? So it says there's another, okay, it could be, but there's another opinion that says no. He took these stones and he made a fence around his head. Why did he make a roast around his head? Because he was afraid of the wild animals. So it asks the question, 1 second, if he was afraid of the wild animals, so make it around your whole body. Why only around his head? And if he didn't make it around his whole body because he trusted in God, so don't put it around your head either. So it explains, the Rebbe explains that he put it around his head because the main thing you have to watch out is your head. You have to guard your head. You have to remember your head is your, we'll see. Oh, but you read it only by means of this big descent. Coming down into this world, Nifa, we can bring about Giloi, a revelation, V'hagbaras Aruchnius, and the strengthening, the power, a powerful revelation of spiritual, of the soul. Gam Bagashmi Zaguf, even in the body. Shekam, also months of Yerud, even the descent of Vayel and Sham, that he laid down there because the sun sank. Even when you're in this world and you're laying down and your head is equal to your feet, and your feet are even dominant. Like we said, the chair is on their head. And the sun sank, it's all dark. Sharosho Vishvada, that your head is equal to your body. His head is equal to the body. Who Moshiach, nevertheless, you can still draw down holiness in your soul. He takes the stones and puts them around his head and his body. How? Even more, Vayishkav Lamaliuso, he can lay down, but in a good way. That the physical body becomes united with the soul. By means of this, that he makes completion in Nilis Yoter, a higher level in the soul itself. Okay, so there's two ways of looking at that your head becomes equal to your body. One way is bad, that the head comes down to the body. Something is driving me crazy. Your head becomes equal to your body, so it comes down. The head becomes down, and the body becomes dominant. Another way of looking at it is no, the body becomes equal to the head. The body gets elevated and the head is dominant. In other words, everything you do with your body is according to what your head dictates. Usually it goes exactly the opposite. A person sees something he likes, he wants money, he wants power, he wants what, and he makes excuses in his mind how he can get it. So his mind gets pulled down into the world. Another way is the opposite. That a person has in his mind honesty, truth, kindness. And in order to do these things, he has to elevate his body in order to manifest these things. If he doesn't have money, he can't give charity. If he's not in these situations that tempt him, so he can't be honest. Right? Honesty is only when there's a chance to be to cheat. And he doesn't cheat. He says, that's me. So the head being equal to the body means two things: either bringing the head down, that's what happens when a person is born, or bringing the body up to the principles that your head knows are right. That's the whole purpose of working, serving God, of the Torah. That's why the Torah is intellect. The Yuvan said this can be understood by preceding the question, which is asked in a lot of places: how can it be that Yaakov laid down? L'cheora ketzad. How can it possibly be that Yaakov, he's about to come and serve God, he's about to start the Jewish people? How can it be that he went to the holy, where he was the holy temple? He reached the place where there's the holy temple, Makom Mikdash, and he laid down? He went to sleep? You can't sleep in the holy temple. Even though the sun set suddenly, Shaloba on Oto, not in the proper time, in order that he should, an indication that he should go to sleep. Hari Omer, the rabbis say, Alamilim Bayishka B'makamahu, that he laid down over there. Khan, over there he laid down. Of the 14 years that he was in the house of Aver learning Torah, it says he didn't lay down. Shahaya Osuk Batori was learning the Torah here. Shachav, here he laid down, but all the 14 years he didn't lay down. Davka Keshalan, B'makom Beis HaMikdash, he laid down in the place of the holy temple. Shachav, then all of a sudden Yaakov went to sleep. Mizeh Gufav, so it must be a good thing. That this laying down must be a good thing that he laid down. Adarab, Hachinaila must be the highest. If he could stay awake just to learn the Torah, obviously now you reached a place, the holy temple. This is the place where the holy temple was going to be. He felt the holiness of the place. How could he go to sleep? Well, holiness is dynamic. Holiness, when a person feels holiness, it's holiness is life. Holiness is life. Is becoming, how do you say, dynamic, full of energy, life, hope, happiness. That's like Yitzchak, we said. That's what the Holy Temple is. People went to the Holy Temple, they came back, they were happy for the whole year. Moadim l'simcha. They were happy to be alive. They were happy to have a potential, to fulfill their potential. They were happy to see people. They were happy to be in the world, to improve the world, to trust in God, to overcome difficulties. People were happy. Yaakov comes to this place of happiness, goes to sleep. So it must be that it's a good thing that he went. He laid down. Laying down must have been somehow a good thing. We'll see. Like we said before, we'll see. This is revealed only in this place of the Holy Temple. How can laying down is you can't lay down in the Holy Temple? The explanation is like this. I have the difference between a physical difference between when a person stands up and when he lays down is when a person is standing up. Even when he's sitting down, you can see clearly the difference between his upper part of his body of a person, the chelko tachton, and the bottom part of the person. Shezeu, this is a elyon, one is a high, manig is a tachton, and it rules over the bottom. Which is not the case when a person goes to sleep. Azai then, the upper part of his body, the chilek tachton, and the bottom part are equal. But spiritually, what does this mean? That the upper part of the person's body, namely his intellect, his emotions, his senses, this indicates that his spiritual part of him, how he can connect himself to what's above him. A main difference between a human being and an animal is intellect. A human being has intellect. He can get out of any situation that he's in. He can also convince others to do things which are opposite nature, right? The horse can't tell another one, let's run into the fire, right? Let's run into the fire. Let's, if they're trained to do it, they can do it. But because a human being can use his mind in order to train them. But animals, they can't come up with new ideas and new, right? They go according to their nature. Sometimes their nature is very surprising, right? You can see that the monkeys can solve certain very simple problems. Right? They make all these experiments, but monkeys, any animal, he can't totally leave the situation he's in and make a new situation. Make a new. Says that's the intellect of a person. Intellect of a person is you can come to conclusions. I have to be honest. Everyone in like Noah, everyone in the world was decadent. Everyone in the world were thieves. Everyone in the world, and Noah wasn't. Why wasn't he? I imagine there must have been intelligent people. There must have been people that were philosophers and religious people, right? They had all these idols, even that people were worshiping idols all over the place. There must have been people that were intelligent and spiritual and this. How could Noah defy all of them? Because his head was above his body. When a person is standing or sitting down, you can see that's a human being. The upper part of his body, this is the spiritual part, and the lower part of his body, ideally, this is the physical part. From this, it's understood that even though Bapashta is simply a begila in a revealed way, this idea of laying down, when the upper part, the spiritual part, becomes equal with the physical part, this is a tremendous descent. Nevertheless, Hari Bashor Shapinim Inyan, and the source of the whole business is there's a tremendous elevation. Shedavka the mitzavzeh nimsa hamayla yachad im amata b'shvagol gemora. Nevertheless, when a person lays down, even though that his head comes down to his feet, I'm sorry. Again, his head is equal to his feet, which is a tremendous descent. But nevertheless, the source of the whole business, that your head can be equal to your feet, has a very high source to it. What? From God's essence. Shebiyoto lamaila, when the person is above, legamri mikola gedorim shel maila lamata, something, a level which is above any distinction of up and down. Harishneim, so everything is equal. Mamish legabav. Va'al derech yidua, like it's known, she pshita shel ish pashut, that the simplicity of a simple person, that by him there's no particular intelligence, is connected to the simple essence of God. Sometimes the simple Jews, they exhibit Judaism more than the big genius rabbis or whatever. They have a simple faith that even the greatest of Jews sometimes don't have. And sometimes the greatest of Jews can get confused. And they get confused. They have a high position, and they want to keep that position. And a lot of times, in order to do that, they're willing to cut corners. Now, they're willing to cut corners. They're willing to how do you say, make deals. A simple person, no way, right? You tell him he's really hungry. He's on an airplane. He's really hungry and he wants to eat. Hasn't eaten for a day, 2 days, and they say, "Here, you can have some chicken, but it's not kosher. But it's chicken. It's kosher meat. It's not pork or horse meat or something like that." So no. If it hasn't got a kosher sign, I'm not going to eat it. It could be that the rabbi who's sitting there, he hasn't eaten for 2 days. He feels terrible. Same thing. He doesn't think anybody's watching him. It's chicken. It's not beef. It's not, well, I mean, it's, chicken. Maybe it's only, it's not so bad. And maybe it could be that he can, no, I'm dying. He'll find all sorts of ways to cut corners. Sometimes a simple Jew is more connected to God than a successful Jew, a spiritual Jew, a great Jew. We talked about last week, if you remember, we talked about Modeh Ani, that when you wake up in the morning, the first thing is, we talked about the new moon. Remember we talked about new moon? Wake up in the morning, the first thing is, I exist. You don't even say I exist. There is existence. Then after that, you think I. First second. A simple person, he's always like at that first second. And at that first second, on one way, it's not so good because, I mean, the main thing of a person is that he's intelligent and that he can benefit others. And this simple guy, he doesn't benefit anybody. But on the other hand, he's attached to the essence. He's attached to Peshitas Atzmus. But Dvar Zeh, this Nimshach is drawn down afterwards when he wakes up, when he wakes up from his sleep, that also there, b'makom shemorgashim, that he feels the difference between up and down, high and low, is Nimshach Mizgala Atzmos, so there's revealed God's essence. Like a lot of times people are humbled. You ever heard that? People get humbled, people that are great people, whatever, and they lose everything or whatever happens, and then they get it all back again. They're different people afterwards. Now I'm humbled. Now I realize where I come from. But then there's the difference between up and down. And if a person remembers the basic fact that the first second that he wakes up in the morning, like when he's just laying down and his head is equal, that his IQ, he has an IQ of, I don't know really how you measure IQ anymore, but let's say he has an IQ, the highest IQ, 1,000, right? But he remembers that his IQ of 1,000, it has to start out from 1. So he realizes that really he's not that different from a person that has an IQ of 1. The difference between 0 and 1 is much greater than the difference between 1 and 1,000. And this person has 1, he's got intellect, right? The same thing, I also have intellect. My intellect is a big intellect. His is a small intellect. But still, the fact of the matter is, it's a big gift. And the fact that I have intellect is the same thing as the fact that I have feet. Therefore, when a person, it feels this simplicity laying down that the head and the feet are really equal, then there's this certain humility that he has that attaches him with the truth. I'm being created. The world is an amazing miracle. That's what it says. Intellect high, Moses. That's why it says Moshe was the most humble person in the world because he felt that everything he had was a gift. Everything is coming from God. So his head and his feet are equal. Kolomar, in other words, in the service of a Jew, when he goes out from Beersheba That's where Yaakov went out from, this holy place. And he goes to Haran, which is a terrible low place. So there's two things. Number one, and this is also talking about the soul, how the soul comes out from pure godliness and being aware of God and coming into the physical world where he's not aware of anything. There's two things. Number one, in addition to the that there's an overpowering of spirituality in the, I'm sorry, when a person goes from Beersheba and he goes to Haran, there's two things. In addition to the overpowering of spirituality over the physical world, that's what Yaakov had to do, in a way that the physical world does not conceal, but it becomes a vessel for godliness. Kafishi nimsas, as it is, as in the world. He lamaros hakol helem behester al aruchnis. Nevertheless, it conceals godliness. But when you bring godliness into the world, so that reveals godliness into the world. But there's also another thing. Hishtavus as achdus shalagashmis varuchnis. One way is that the spiritual overpowers the physical. Something like how it was in the days of King Solomon. King Solomon says the whole world was negated to King Solomon. Why? Because he was so smart, he was so amazing. So nobody, first of all, wanted to make war with him because they knew he was too clever. He had some sort of tricks up to it. And he says he controlled all the spiritual worlds. And also everybody was in awe of his greatness. So he conquered the world, so to speak, by force. Spiritual force, but nevertheless force. But then there's another way, and that is that the world and godliness becomes equal. Spiritual and physical become equal. By means of the revelation of the essence of God, which is above both of them. It's the same thing. Let's take an example. You have a person, I don't know, the richest person in the world, I don't know what it is. He's got some king of Saudi Arabia or something like that. He has $100 trillion, right? $100 trillion. And the poorest person in the world, poorest guy that there is, he owes $100 trillion. He's in a prison, right? And then they have elections on the world or whatever, and somebody's elected king. Alexander the Great, he's the king of the whole business. Oh, he takes over the whole world. Nebuchadnezzar takes over the whole world. And he calls all the people together, the richest and the poorest, and he says, you're the richest person in the world. Yes, your majesty, I am. How much you got? $100 trillion. He says, what's your name? My name is Joe. And he says, okay, you're the poorest person in the world, right? He says, yes, your majesty. You're 120 million. What's your name? Your name is Sam. Okay. He says, I'm changing your name. Your name is now Sam, and your name is now Joe. Everything you had goes over to him. Your name is changed, all the possessions. And that's it. By the king, everybody's equal. Okay? How are you with that? Joe says, well, your majesty, you took everything I have away, but you're the king. And the other one says, well, thank you, your majesty. You gave me everything you got. He says, okay, now I'm changing it back. Now you can have everything back again. Okay? What changed? He got the money back. His attitude changed. His whole attitude changed. Suddenly he realizes, listen, I thought I was the richest person in the world and that I was better than the poorest person in the world. And now I realize that I'm not better. In 1 second, everything is equal. That's the whole thing with God. When a person realizes that everything he has comes from God, so then everything becomes equal. The whole world becomes equal. Now, what you do with your money, I mean, in the end, he does have more money. So what do you do with the money? You could say, listen, you know what? Maybe I'll pay off half of the debt of this other guy. Maybe I'll convince people to forget about their debt. I'll start doing good things. I'll stop being so high. I'll come down low. And the guy who's down low, he'll say, I'll stop being so dejected and so depressed and all the time. In 1 second, I can become rich. It all depends on. So everything suddenly becomes equal. The world becomes equal suddenly. But what it means is that the world becomes godly. You realize that there's a king. And because of the king, we have everything that we have. And that's the goal of Yaakov in the world, to make everything equal. According to this, now we can understand why Yaakov laid down in this place. Because exactly the opposite, specifically because of this, that this was the place of the Holy Temple, where the Holy Temple is revealed the king. That's the completion of everything, godliness, until the revelation of God's essence, the Holy Temple, and especially the Holy of Holies, which there was the Ark, and there was the tablets, the Torah, that the source, it says that the place over there you couldn't measure it. It says it took up a certain measure of place, but when they measured it, that the ark wasn't there. It wasn't there. It was the whole room was, let's say, 20 amas big. From one end of the ark to the wall was 10 amas. One end of the ark was 10 amas. So that's 20 amas. What about the ark? It says it wasn't measurable. And that's the whole world. The whole world is really not measurable. The whole thing is a big miracle. By means of this, Yaakov came to this place. He laid down in a good way. He realized that the physical was the same thing as the spiritual. Therefore, all these bad things that happened to him afterwards, he realized that this is all part of God's plan. It's all equal by him. He just has to know what to do with it, of course. That's what it says. He had a dream. And he laid down on this place and made a dream. And behold, there was a sulam, a ladder, Mutz of Arza standing on the ground, and its head reached to the heavens. And there were angels of God, only B'Yordim Bo, going up and down on it. And it says that God stood on the top. He dreamt there was a ladder, angels going up and coming down, and God was standing on the top. Achibur, the uniting of between Arza, the ladder was standing Arza in the direction, and there was down, down, V'Shemaima, and up, by means of God's essence, and God. And this is automatically became what Nimtzaim Sham Gam Kol Malachim, all the angels. As soon as God revealed, it was revealed that the physical world and the spiritual worlds are just all creation, the whole thing, then things started getting dynamic. The angels started going up and coming down. Yesh Lomar, we can say that this is also the explanation of what it means that Yaakov woke up from his sleep. And then he said, Ochen, but there is God in this place, and I didn't know it. What does it mean I didn't know it? That the revelation of God is above knowledge. It's above any comprehension. Since that comprehension, knowledge there is up and down. Knowledge, we said, is the head. That's on the top. Yediyah that's connected to the brains and the head, which is not the case. The physical world, God's essence, the up and down are the same. And then afterwards, what did Yaakov said? That he was afraid, and he said, how awesome is this place? This is only the house. This is nothing other than the house of God, a house and a dwelling place for God. That God can dwell in this physical world with all of his essence. All of this he brought afterwards. It brought Jacob afterwards, after he made this monument that it said, and he poured oil on it, that Yaakov, he made a vow. And what was the vow? Everything that God gives to me, I will give a tithe, a tenth. Aser asrenulach. By means of the revelation, when God is revealed in the world, and it's revealed that everything that I have belongs to God, physical, spiritual, everything is equal. So then what happens is, Aser asrenu, I will give 10. What's the 10th? The 10th is the aspect of God's keter, the crown, the surrounding aspect of godliness. We'll do this tomorrow also again. Yater, even more. God's essence, loch, I will give to you, God. Kevin Shekalam and Tzius, because the whole existence, that everything you give to me, God, it just belongs to you. It's just revealing, it's only to reveal your essence here in this physical world. So Yaakov, in other words, what was he doing over here? He realized, I am a human being. I am being created by God. I have a free will. God put me in this world to decide who I'm serving, myself or God. But it's not so simple just to make it up in your mind. You have to feel that this whole world is just a challenge and an opportunity from God. And everything that happens to me is just God giving me a challenge and an opportunity and a blessing. And I just have to react in the proper way, not to think in terms of selfishness, but think in terms of godliness. And that means that my feet and my head are the same. What I think and what I know is exactly the same thing as what I do or where I go. And that was the idea of Yaakov, to elevate the world, to show that the world is holy, not just to bring his head down and show that the world is dominant, but to show that God is the king of the whole business, and the spiritual and the physical are equal, so therefore make everything spiritual. Make the world go according to principles of truth and spiritual truth, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. What are these stones and what are this that God, that Yaakov put under his head? Now let us do the Yom Yom.